When you break addiction's spell, something happens in the invisible fabric of reality. The things that once resisted begin to move. The world, which seemed locked in immutable patterns, responds differently. It is as if an intelligence behind events was only waiting for you to free yourself from your own chains so it could cooperate again. Jung would say, the psyche and the world are made of the same substance. That is why what changes within reflects without. Every addiction is a form of hypnosis. The body obeys, the desire repeats, and time bends in circles. The addict believes they are seeking pleasure, but pleasure is only the bait. What the unconscious really wants is attention, the attention of consciousness, which has abandoned its pain in the basement of the soul. Compulsive repetition is the primitive form the unconscious uses to say, "Look at me." But the ego is afraid to look. It wants to be strong, productive, controlled. The addiction threatens that illusion of control, so it fights it and strengthens it. The cursed war between wanting and resisting is the movement that keeps the spell active. Every spell needs tension. The desire to break free reinforces the belief that you are trapped. When you stop fighting and begin to observe, the circle breaks. Now, before we go deeper into Jung's revelation about how reality itself shifts when you reclaim your inner sovereignty, I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel and activate notifications. This is not just another self-help resource. Here, we are building a community dedicated to profound psychological transformation through Jung's analytical psychology, spirituality, and conscious integration of shadow material. Each week, we release new insights that build upon each other, creating a complete roadmap for your individuation journey. You will find curated playlists in the description and pinned comment designed to guide you step by step through specific themes like shadow work, synchronicity, and the alchemy of transformation. By subscribing, you ensure you do not miss any piece of this ongoing exploration. Now back to the core mystery. How does breaking addiction's spell make reality itself obey you? Jung called this instant integration of the shadow. The shadow is not evil in itself. It is simply what we cannot bear to see in ourselves. Each time we hide it, it manifests in crisis, addiction, misfortune. The world obeys the shadow when consciousness refuses to hear it. The reverse is also true. When we accept what we previously rejected, the world changes tone. Obstacles disappear not by miracle, but because we stop interpreting them as enemies. The internal chains, fear, guilt, desire for control, build the external destiny. Jung saw this not as metaphor, but as psychic law. He studied meaningful coincidences and realized that the psyche acts upon matter subtly, attracting circumstances compatible with its state. This is synchronicity, a secret dialogue between within and without. There is no addicting yourself to anything without the entire universe participating in this dance of mirrors. Imagine Narcissus at the edge of the lake. He falls in love with his own image and dies of thirst, unable to quench himself with the reflection. Addiction is that. Trying to possess the image, we lose the real. Like Narcissus, we seek outside what is only a broken mirror of the soul. When this enchantment breaks, the individual approaches the true water. The mirror becomes portal. Have you noticed how the harder you chase satisfaction through the addictive behavior, the further satisfaction retreats? This is not random. Jung understood that every compulsion is the psyche's desperate attempt to return to wholeness through the wrong door. The addict stands at the threshold between two worlds, sensing there is something sacred beyond the repetition, but unable to cross over because they mistake the reflection for the destination. The unconscious does not speak in words, it speaks in symptoms. Your addiction is not your enemy, it is a messenger. It carries information about what part of you has been exiled, what energy has been repressed, what divine impulse has been condemned as unworthy. When you vilify the addiction, you vilify the message. When you embrace the addiction, not by indulging it, but by listening to it, you retrieve the gold hidden in the mud. This is the alchemical work Jung spent his life mapping. Faust made the pact with the devil to feel infinite. It is the same impulse of the modern addict, the promise of instant expansion. But there is a price, surrendering your own center. Jung read Faust not as a moralistic tale, but as an alchemical map. The devil is the unconscious itself, offering power in exchange for humility. If you refuse it, it pursues you. If you accept it with reverence, it becomes mentor. Thus, the energy of addiction, when welcomed, transmutes into creative force. Breaking addiction is a sacred act. It is when the mind stops using the world to compensate for its absence from itself. Reality then reorganizes spontaneously. People, events, ideas, everything begins to flow with synchrony. Jung saw this in his patients. When a soul integrates repressed content, even accidents cease. Coincidences multiply, paths open. As if the universe said, finally, we are in the same rhythm. But there is a decisive instant, the confrontation with the void. When the substance, the pleasure, or the routine disappears, the inner silence frightens. This is where many retreat. The void is the true portal. The ego dies a little, and the self begins to breathe. It is at this point that reality, once a mirror of prison, becomes a mirror of presence. Time decelerates, problems dissolve, and an invisible order is born. You are not being asked to destroy your desire. You are being asked to see it, to observe the thirst without fear of it, to observe the lack without trying to fill it. Each time you witness an impulse without reacting, the spell loses a drop of power. In silence and conscious repetition, consciousness reclaims what had been scattered. The world begins to obey because it no longer has to mirror the internal chaos. Consider the paradox. The more you fight addiction, the more real it becomes. The more you accept the underlying wound it is trying to heal, the less power it holds. This is not passivity. This is radical presence. Presence is the opposite of addiction. Addiction is always about escaping the now, running from discomfort, from emptiness, from the truth of who you are in this moment. Presence is the willingness to be here, fully, even when here is uncomfortable. And the moment you choose presence over escape, reality responds, not because you have performed some magic trick, but because you have stopped distorting reality with your inner fragmentation. Carl Jung revealed that the unconscious is not enemy, but divine language in disguise. Addiction, even the darkest, is oracle. It says, there is something in you that wants to be loved. When you understand this, healing happens without effort, because what was once fragment returns to integrate with the whole. And when you are whole, reality responds with order. What once seemed like bad luck becomes synchronicity. What was struggle becomes flow. Think of your psyche as a kingdom. For years, you have been at war with a faction of your own citizens, the desires, the impulses, the shadow elements you deemed unacceptable. You have tried to exile them, imprison them, starve them, but they are part of your kingdom. The war drains your resources, it destabilizes your rule. The external world, which is always a reflection of the internal, manifests this civil war as obstacles, failures, and misfortunes. The moment you declare peace, the moment you welcome the exiled parts back into the kingdom and give them a rightful place, the entire realm stabilizes. The external world, having nothing left to mirror, shifts into harmony. The internal chains broken reverberate in destiny. The mirror of reality aligns. The right people appear. Synchronicities multiply. Power does not come from outside, it comes from presence. When you are present, the universe is obedient, not by servitude, but because consciousness and the world are one organism breathing. There is a teaching hidden in every spiritual tradition. As within, so without. As above, so below. These are not poetic metaphors. They are descriptions of how consciousness operates. The Hermetic philosophers knew it. The alchemists practiced it. Jung studied it scientifically and called it the psychoid nature of reality, the place where psyche and matter are indistinguishable. Your addiction has been anchoring you to a particular frequency of reality, a reality of lack, of compulsion, of repetition. The moment you break the spell, you shift frequencies. You begin to vibrate at the frequency of presence, of wholeness, of integration. And reality, being psychoid, resonates with that new frequency. New opportunities appear. Old obstacles vanish. People who match your new vibration enter your life. People who matched your old pattern fade away. This is not mysticism. This is how the psyche works. Thus, breaking addiction's spell is the first act of spiritual sovereignty. It is saying, I return to myself. I return to the center that creates the world. And from that center, all reality naturally curves to harmony. You have been told that willpower is the answer, that you must fight harder, resist more, control better. But willpower is the language of the ego, and the ego is what created the problem. The ego splits the world into acceptable and unacceptable, into good and bad. It is the ego that casts the shadow. More ego will only deepen the division. What is needed is not more willpower, but more awareness. Awareness does not fight. It observes, it witnesses, and in the light of awareness, what was hidden becomes visible. What was compulsive becomes conscious, and what is conscious can be integrated. This is the path Jung mapped: individuation. Becoming whole by reclaiming all the parts of yourself you have disowned. Every addiction is a piece of soul trying to come home. When you welcome it home, you become more yourself. And the more yourself you become, the more reality cooperates with you. In the end, there is no victory over addiction. There is reconciliation. Shadow and light embrace. The invisible and the visible reunite. The awakened self looks at life without needing to flee from it. Then reality, which has always been waiting, begins to obey the rhythm of the healed heart. Breaking the spell is remembering that there was never a prison, only a dream. And upon waking, you realize everything that was destiny was only you, trying to recognize yourself in the mirror of the world. And it is in this instant that the cycle closes. The outer world changes, not because something mystical forces it, but because consciousness liberates itself from invisible bars. When the internal chains dissolve, destiny recedes, and before an awakened being, reality itself bows in reverence. What does it mean practically to break the spell? It means you stop running, you stop medicating, you stop filling the void with substance, behavior, distraction. You sit with the discomfort. You feel the craving without acting on it. You observe the panic without fleeing. This is not easy. It may be the hardest thing you ever do, but it is also the most liberating. Because in that space between impulse and action, you discover something extraordinary. You are not your addiction. You are the awareness that observes the addiction. And awareness cannot be addicted. Awareness is free. The more you rest in that awareness, the more the spell weakens. The compulsion loses its grip. The external world, which was structured around your internal compulsion, begins to restructure. Doors open where there were walls. Solutions appear where there were dead ends. People offer help where there was isolation. You have not changed the world, you have changed yourself. And because the world is psychoid, because inner and outer are two sides of one reality, the world has no choice but to change with you. Jung worked with thousands of patients. He documented this phenomenon again and again. A person integrates a complex and suddenly their career takes off. A person embraces their shadow and a decades-long conflict resolves overnight. A person stops running from their pain and synchronicities guide them to exactly what they need. This is not magic. This is the natural functioning of a psyche in alignment with itself. Your addiction has been a misalignment, a distortion, a psychic limp, and reality has been limping along with you. The moment you heal the limp, reality begins to walk straight. Consider the story of the prodigal son. He leaves his father's house, squanders his inheritance, falls into misery and addiction. He feeds pigs and starves. Then, at the lowest point, he comes to himself. He remembers who he is. He returns home. And the father, seeing him from afar, runs to embrace him. This is not a story about religion. It is a story about the psyche. The father is the self, your true nature, the wholeness you were born with. The far country is the ego's rebellion, the addiction, the compulsion. The return is individuation. And the feast is the spontaneous reorganization of your life when you come back to center. Reality has been waiting for you to return, not with judgment, but with open arms. The moment you turn toward home, the moment you choose presence over compulsion, the banquet is prepared. Everything you need is provided, not because you deserve it, but because that is how reality works when you are aligned with your own center. There is a moment in every addict's journey, perhaps you have experienced it, when you realize the substance or behavior is not giving you what it promised. The high is shorter, the relief is thinner, the cost is greater. This is not failure. This is the unconscious withdrawing its energy from the compulsion. It is a sign that the psyche is ready to move forward, to integrate, to heal. But the ego, terrified of change, doubles down. It chases the high harder. It escalates the behavior. This is the dark night, and it is also the threshold of transformation. If you can recognize this moment for what it is, not a sign that you need more of the substance, but a sign that you need to stop and listen, you stand at the doorway of liberation. Jung called this enantiodromia, the tendency of things to turn into their opposite. The addiction that once brought relief now brings suffering. The escape that once felt like freedom now feels like prison. This reversal is not punishment. It is the psyche's way of pushing you toward growth. The very thing that is destroying you is also the thing that can save you, if you are willing to turn and face it, to ask, what are you trying to tell me? What part of me have I abandoned that you are trying to bring back? When you ask these questions with genuine openness, the addiction begins to speak, and what it says is always some version of, you are more than you think you are. You have denied a part of yourself. I am here to bring it back. The shadow is not your enemy. It is your unlived life. It is the creativity you suppressed, the anger you swallowed, the desire you condemned, the wildness you tamed into submission. All of it has gone into the unconscious and formed a complex. And that complex has become your addiction. But the energy in that complex is your energy. It belongs to you. And when you reclaim it, you become powerful. Not power over others, but power over yourself. The power to choose. The power to create. The power to live from your center rather than from your wounds. And when you live from your center, reality bows. Because reality is not separate from you. It is an extension of you. This is the secret Jung revealed. The psyche is not contained in the skull. It extends into the world. It shapes events. It attracts circumstances. It creates synchronicities. The boundary between inner and outer is far more porous than we have been taught. What you believe about yourself becomes what you experience in the world. What you integrate within manifests without. What you heal in your psyche heals in your life. This is why breaking addiction is not just a personal victory. It is a metaphysical shift. You are not just changing a behavior. You are changing your relationship with reality itself. You are moving from a reality governed by compulsion to a reality governed by consciousness. And conscious reality is responsive. It is intelligent. It is cooperative. It is, in Jung's language, synchronistic. Synchronicity is the language reality speaks when you are aligned. Meaningful coincidences, unlikely encounters, perfectly timed events. These are not accidents. They are the psyche and the world communicating. They are evidence that you are on the right path, and they multiply when you break free from addiction. Because addiction is static, it is repetition. It is the same event over and over. It generates no new information, no growth, no synchronicity. But the moment you step out of the loop, the moment you choose differently, you enter the flow. And the flow is where synchronicity lives. You will know you are breaking the spell when strange things start happening. When people you were just thinking about call you, when opportunities appear out of nowhere, when obstacles that seemed immovable suddenly dissolve, when the book you needed falls off the shelf, when the conversation you needed happens by chance. These are not miracles. They are the natural result of a psyche returning to wholeness. They are reality saying, I see you, I am with you. Keep going. Do not underestimate the intelligence of the unconscious. It has been guiding you all along, even through the addiction. It has been trying to get your attention, trying to bring you home. And now that you are listening, it will guide you with increasing clarity. Dreams will become more vivid. Intuitions will become stronger. Signs will become unmistakable. This is not because you have become special. It is because you have become present. And presence is the condition for communion with the deeper layers of the psyche, and through them, with the deeper layers of reality. Jung spent his life exploring these layers. He called them the collective unconscious, the realm of archetypes, the place where all human experience is stored and accessible. When you break addiction's spell, you reconnect with this realm. You are no longer isolated in your ego. You are part of something vast, and that vastness supports you. It knows what you need before you ask. It arranges circumstances. It sends helpers. It opens paths. Your job is simply to stay present, to keep choosing consciousness over compulsion, to keep integrating rather than fragmenting. The rest unfolds by itself. This is the meaning of surrender in the spiritual traditions. Not giving up, but giving over, trusting the process, trusting the intelligence that is larger than your ego, trusting that when you align with your true self, reality aligns with you. Addiction is the opposite of trust. It is the ego trying to control, to force, to manufacture the feeling it craves. But control is exhausting, and it does not work. The more you grasp, the more slips through your fingers. The alternative is to open your hand, to stop grasping, to allow. This does not mean passivity. It means aligning your will with the will of the self, the deeper, wiser part of you that knows the way. When your personal will and the will of the self are aligned, action becomes effortless, life becomes flow, and reality becomes cooperative. You are no longer pushing against the world. You are moving with it, and it is moving with you. This is what it means for reality to obey you. Not that you command it like a tyrant, but that you dance with it like a partner. You lead and follow. You give and receive. You shape and are shaped. It is a relationship of mutuality. And it begins the moment you stop fragmenting yourself and start integrating. Awaken. Observe the spell dissolving in silence, and when you feel the world moving differently, know it is the reflection of your freedom. The spell of addiction operates on multiple dimensions simultaneously. On the surface, it appears to be about the substance or behavior, the drink, the drug, the compulsion. But Jung understood that every outer manifestation has an inner root. The addiction is not the problem, it is the symptom. The problem is the psychic wound, the unmet need, the rejected part of self that is crying out for recognition. Until you address the root, cutting away the symptom only causes it to grow back in another form. You stop drinking and start compulsive eating. You quit drugs and become addicted to work. You abandon one relationship pattern and immediately recreate it with someone new. This is called symptom substitution, and it happens because you have treated the surface without touching the depth. Jung's approach was radically different. He did not tell his patients to simply stop the behavior. He asked them to explore it, to understand it, to dialogue with it. He used active imagination, a technique where you enter into conversation with the parts of yourself that are driving the compulsion. You ask the addiction, "Who are you? What do you want from me? What part of me do you represent?" And you listen, not with judgment, but with genuine curiosity. What emerges is often surprising. The addiction may represent your inner child seeking comfort. It may represent your creative self seeking expression. It may represent your spiritual hunger seeking transcendence. It is never just about the substance. It is always about the soul. And when you understand what the addiction is truly seeking, you can provide it in a healthy way. You can give your inner child the comfort it needs through self-compassion rather than alcohol. You can give your creative self-expression through art rather than drugs. You can give your spiritual hunger transcendence through meditation rather than compulsive behavior. This is integration. This is alchemy. This is turning the lead of addiction into the gold of self-awareness. And the moment this happens, reality shifts. Because you are no longer fighting yourself. You are no longer divided. You are whole. And wholeness has power that division can never access. There is an ancient principle in alchemy, solve et coagula. Dissolve and coagulate. Break down the old form so the new form can emerge. Addiction is the old form, the rigid, repetitive pattern that has calcified around your wound. Breaking the spell is the dissolution. You break down the pattern. You face the chaos. You sit in the uncertainty. This is terrifying. The ego wants solid ground. It wants to know what comes next. But in the dissolve phase, there is no solid ground. There is only the willingness to let the old structure die. And then, when you have sat in the dissolution long enough, when you have allowed the old pattern to fully break apart, the coagulation begins. A new pattern emerges, a new way of being, not because you forced it, but because it is the natural intelligence of the psyche to reorganize at a higher level of complexity. This is not recovery. This is transformation. Recovery implies going back to what you were before the addiction, but you cannot go back, and you should not want to, because what you were before the addiction was the soil in which the addiction grew. If you simply return to that state, the addiction will return too. Transformation means becoming someone new, someone who has integrated the lesson of the addiction, someone who has reclaimed the lost parts of self, someone who has faced the shadow and emerged whole. This person does not struggle with addiction because the psychic conditions that created it no longer exist. The wound has been healed. The need has been met, the self has been integrated, and reality, always responsive to the state of the psyche, reflects this transformation. Doors open, relationships deepen, purpose clarifies, health returns, abundance flows. Not because you have manipulated reality, but because you have stopped distorting it. You have become transparent to your own essence, and your essence is creative, intelligent, and inherently aligned with the flow of life. Jung called this the telos of the self, the inherent direction toward wholeness. Every psyche is trying to become whole. That is its fundamental drive. Addiction is a distorted attempt at wholeness. It is the psyche reaching for completion in the wrong place. But the impulse is correct. The impulse toward expansion, toward transcendence, toward union is the impulse of the self. When you redirect that impulse toward genuine integration rather than false satisfaction, you align with the telos. And when you align with the telos, the universe conspires in your favor, because the universe itself is organized around the principle of increasing complexity, increasing consciousness, increasing wholeness. You are not separate from that process. You are an expression of it, and when you cooperate with it rather than resist it, everything becomes easier. This is grace, not the religious concept, but the psychological reality. Grace is what happens when you stop fighting the current and start swimming with it. when you align your small will with the larger will of the self, when you surrender your ego's agenda and trust the deeper intelligence. In that state, miracles are common, not because you are special, but because you are finally allowing reality to function as it was designed to. Addiction is resistance. It is the ego saying, "I know better than the self. I will create my own satisfaction. I will force my own transcendence," and for a while it works. The substance provides the feeling, the behavior delivers the relief, but it is borrowed, it is artificial, and it always exacts a price. The price is your life force, your creativity, your presence, your connection to self and others. Eventually, the price becomes unbearable, and that is when the opportunity for transformation appears. Do not waste that opportunity by simply white-knuckling your way through withdrawal. Do not settle for sobriety when transformation is available. Sobriety is abstinence. Transformation is rebirth. Sobriety is saying no to the addiction. Transformation is saying yes to yourself. And when you say yes to yourself, your whole self, including the parts you have been running from, reality says yes to you. It is a law as reliable as gravity. What you integrate within manifests without. What you heal in your psyche heals in your world. What you become in your depths, you attract in your days. This is not mystical thinking. This is Jung's empirical observation after decades of clinical work. He documented it, he mapped it, he taught it, and now it is available to you. The question is, are you willing? Are you willing to stop running? Are you willing to face the wound? Are you willing to dialogue with the shadow? Are you willing to integrate what you have rejected? Are you willing to become whole? If the answer is yes, then reality is already responding. The help you need is on its way. The synchronicities are lining up. The path is clearing. All you have to do is take the first step. And the first step is always the same. Stop. Stop running. Stop medicating. Stop distracting. Just stop. And in that stop, in that pause, in that space between the impulse and the action, you will find yourself. Not the small, frightened ego that has been driving the addiction, but the vast, wise self that has been waiting patiently for you to return. That self knows the way. That self has always known. And when you reconnect with it, everything you need to know will be revealed. Not all at once, but step by step. Insight by insight. Synchronicity by synchronicity. Trust the process. Trust the self. Trust that when you break addiction's spell, reality does not just change, it transforms. And so do you.